The Challenger disaster shocked the country and left everyone wondering, how could this happen? How did a shuttle, built so carefully, fall apart just seconds after launch? Could it have been avoided if someone had spoken up more strongly? In 1972, NASA started working on something new: a reusable space shuttle. The goal was to make space travel more common and affordable. This shuttle would carry astronauts and satellites into space and later help build a space station. After nearly a decade of work, the first shuttle, Columbia, launched on April 12, 1981. It flew into space, came back safely, and flew again. This was a huge step forward. By 1982, after 4 test flights, NASA said the shuttle was ready for regular use. Things went well at first. The shuttle launched satellites, carried out science missions, and made history when Sally Ride became the first American woman in space, and Guyon Bluford became the first African-American astronaut. NASA promised to fly up to 24 missions a year, but that was a lot for a system that still had weak spots. The early wins made NASA confident, maybe too confident. They started acting like shuttle flights were just routine, even when they were warning signs. In 1985, they pushed through 9 launches, more than ever before. In 1984, NASA added a new program to excite the public. A teacher would go to space. Over 11,000 teachers signed up, and in 1985, Carista McAuliffe was chosen. She trained to teach from orbit, and the idea caught the attention of schools and families across the country. The space shuttle used 2 solid rocket boosters built by a company called Morton Thiokol. These boosters were made in parts joined together with rubber rings called O-rings. The rings were supposed to expand with heat and keep hot gases from leaking out. But tests in 1981 and 1982 showed that sometimes the O-rings didn't seal right. Hot gas would leak out and leave behind black soot. In August 1984, inspectors found soot between the 2 O-rings after a flight. That meant the first ring had fallen and only the second one had worked. By 1985, almost every launch showed some kind of O-ring damage. In one launch that took place in cold weather, both boosters had signs of damage. On one of them, even the second O-ring didn't hold. Some engineers at Morton Thiokol wanted the design to be changed. They suggested stronger O-rings or even adding a third one for safety. The company started working on better boosters, but they wouldn't be ready for a few more years. In the meantime, NASA kept launching the shuttles using the same risky setup. Since no shuttle had crashed yet, many people inside NASA and Thiokol didn't think the O-ring problem was serious. Thiokol also had a lot to lose. They had a contract with NASA, and fixing the problem would take time and cost money. That meant delays. So, instead of stopping, they kept flying with what they had, hoping nothing would go wrong. The next shuttle flight, Challenger's 10th, was called STS-51L. It had 7 crew members: Dick Scobie, Michael J. Smith, Judith Resnick, Ellison Onizuka, Ronald McNair, Gregory Jarvis, and Carista McAuliffe, the first schoolteacher picked to fly in space. This mission planned to launch a $100 million satellite and collect data on Halley's Comet. Carista's part in the mission had captured the hearts of millions of school children. The launch had been pushed back many times due to bad weather and other problems. It was supposed to happen on January 2, 1986, but by January 28, they were on their 7th attempt. The crew stayed calm, suiting up again and again, waiting for their chance to finally take off. The night before launch, Florida faced rare freezing temperatures. By midnight on January 27, 1986, ice had formed around the shuttle. Weather reports said it would be just 30 degrees Fahrenheit the next morning, colder than any shuttle launch before. Engineers at Thiokol got very worried. They knew the rubber O-rings on the boosters didn't work well in the cold. Past problems had shown up even at 53 degrees Fahrenheit, and now it was much colder. If the rings stayed stiff, they wouldn't seal, and hot gases could leak out. Some engineers called an emergency meeting, showing data and past issues, urging NASA and Thiokol to delay the launch. But after hours of back and forth, the engineers' warnings were set aside. Vehicle's leaders, under pressure, approved the launch. On the morning of January 28 at 11:38 a.m., Challenger lifted off. The crowd cheered as fire poured from the boosters, and just after launch, a small gray puff came from the right booster's joint. It wasn't caught at the time, so about 1 minute into flight, the shuttle reached the part of the climb where air pressure is strongest. Everything still looked normal. The command center gave the go-ahead to speed up the engines. Then, at 73 seconds, it all went wrong. A sudden burst of fire and smoke tore through the shuttle. The fuel tank gave way and the shuttle came apart in the air. The two boosters spun out of control until they were destroyed by ground teams to keep others safe. The disaster didn't happen because of a massive explosion. Instead, hot gas had leaked through a faulty seal right from the start. Burned materials briefly blocked the leak, but about a minute in, strong winds caused the seals to fail again. A flame shot out, burning through the fuel tank. The right booster broke loose and slammed into the tank, which led to a giant fireball. The shuttle, moving at nearly twice the speed of sound, split apart. The crew cabin stayed together as it flew up to 65,000 feet before falling into the sea. Some emergency gear inside had been turned on by hand, and switches were moved, showing a few astronauts were still alive and trying to respond. The cabin hit the ocean at more than 200 miles an hour. Everyone on board died. People across the country were shocked. Many kids had been watching from their classrooms, excited to see a teacher in space. Families waiting at the launch site broke down. NASA headquarters went silent. The president canceled his big speech that night and instead spoke to the nation about the loss. 3 days later, at the Johnson Space Center, the crew was honored with a ceremony under cloudy skies as jets flew overhead in a tribute. Shuttle launches were stopped right away. A few days after the Challenger disaster on February 3, 1986, a special team was put together to find out exactly what went wrong. It was called the Rogers Commission. Leading the investigation was a former Secretary of State, and the team included well-known experts like astronauts, a legendary pilot, and a famous scientist. They talked to over 160 people and dug through every detail. One key moment was when a scientist showed on live TV how an O-ring, one of the shuttle's booster seals, turned stiff in cold weather. That simple test made it clear that freezing temperatures had a direct effect. But the investigation didn't stop at the hardware. By June, the final report didn't just confirm that the O-ring had failed, it exposed deeper problems. NASA had known about this O-ring issue as far back as 1977. Still, nothing was truly fixed. Tests done in 1984 showed that the seals could fail at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, yet Challenger was launched at 30 degrees Fahrenheit. As always, don't forget to comment down your thoughts on this situation, and while you're down there, make sure to smash that subscribe button as well.